Hello and welcome to another Plastic Addict review, and I promised you guys a special one for number 3,000. 3,000 subscribers to be specific. I want to thank everyone out there who has been discovering me lately and everyone who has been sticking with me all this time and getting my name out there. I love you guys. Thank you very much for making this something of a success, actually. And to thank you guys, I was going to do something special. You see, for you guys, and only for you guys, I broke the one rule of this series. You see, everything I have ever reviewed to this point has either been something either left and forgotten in my collection, just things that I didn't even know they were bad until I bought them. I mean, that's how this plastic abomination came into my life. I'm still doing it to this day. But I have also reviewed things that you people have generously donated, and I thank you very much for that. It amazes me the generosity that some of you have shown. I've never bought anything specifically for Plastic Addict. Until now. So for number 3,000, we're reviewing a toy that I never thought I would own because of its rarity, and I never thought it would ever be donated to me, so I went ahead and bought it. We are going to review Energon Build to Rule Skyblast. And just so you guys know what we are getting into here, I want to point you out to the new sticker here in the corner. That's what they stamp onto those things that just came in the store. These are the brand new hottest items, the things we just got in. You gotta have it! Now, I refer you to the sales sticker, which is 60% off. They couldn't sell the first one to come in the door. Prepare for pain. We start in vehicle mode, and no surprise, a lot of the problems I had with Thundercracker are still present here. We will start by looking at a couple of actual improvements, really. The wings. This is a big problem I had with Thundercracker because the wings were paper thin, and here, not so much. They're quite thick in comparison, so they don't look flimsy as hell, and they actually look in proportion to everything else. The trick is that still makes everything blocky as hell and the least aerodynamic plane of all time. You've got a wider nose, so proportion-wise, it still looks decent, but again, big blocky undercarriage, a lot of little blocky sharp lines. This thing couldn't get off the ground if it tried. That is despite these huge intakes, which are actually a nice little detail. I like the little windows here as well. If those are windows, it's kind of hard to tell. And it's got thrusters in the back. So, they were actually trying a little bit. There's some thought going on in here, and I appreciate that. But then the thought ends because, looky, same exact problem Thundercracker had. Big face pointing up toward the sky. This is intolerable, and I don't understand why they keep doing it. In fact, even the box guy, even the one taking the photos here, was smart enough not to do it. Look, completely left a gap there. The gap looks better than putting the head in there. Something else that's been bugging me here is these tail fins. Now, take a look at this. Does that really look like they would give you any kind of control or stabilization? Look how wide that is. It might as well be another wing. It gets you more lift than it does stabilize you. So, yeah, he's got some wings here instead of actual tail fins. So that gives us, what, 1, 2, 3? 3 sets of wings? Oh, wait a minute. Look at that. Look, it's coming off the side. That's another wing. There's 8 wings on this thing. Who was designing that? I mean, a Wright brother on an acid trip wouldn't have an idea that's stupid. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it would probably take 8 wings to get this thing off the ground, but jeez, that's just horrible design thought. Now, I'm no expert on aeronautics by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know Transformers, and I know that people think Slugslinger looks ridiculous with 2 cockpits. So if you only need 1 of something and you have 2, that looks ridiculous. So what does it say when you only need 2 of something and you've got 8 of them? I mean, what levels of complete moronic ideas does this come from in the first place? Now, if we compare this to a real Transformer, say, I don't know, the real Skyblast, we can start to see a few of the problems I have. I mean, is there anything missing here? Does anything look incorrect about the build-to-rule version? Right, absolutely right. There's no Autobot symbols on the wings. What were you thinking? No, of course I'm talking about the blades on the wings, which is an iconic piece of the character's design, and it really sets it apart as its own unique little vehicle. It's a very striking design this toy has because of it. This is plain and boring, and it doesn't help that it's originally ramjet, so it's much longer. It looks like a stretched out version of Skyblast, but honestly, as long as you are molding new pieces for this toy, why not mold in a few of the more iconic little bits? Make him look like Skyblast. Alright, here we go. At long last, visual documentation of build-to-rule Skyblast robot mode. Building up a ton of anticipation. What's it going to look like? Will it be better than Ramjet? Will it redeem the build-to-rule toy line? Oh, the excitement is just, it's killing me. Let's take a look. Let's see how it is. How is it? And it looks absolutely ridiculous. Are you really surprised at this point? Here we go, robot mode, the long anticipated, and really the whole reason I bought the toy just to get a look at this. And, you know, I was expecting this of a build-to-rule, so no disappointment here. This is pretty much as bad as I was expecting. So let's see what else we can draw out of him. Well, you know, the colors, they're kind of all over the place. Got whites and grays and whites and grays and whites and grays, and none of the blocks really match each other. And you're missing a ton of red. The one thing I know about Skyblast is that red's a very primary color, and here it's barely an afterthought. I mean, it looks very plain. It looks very dull and boring, which is not a quality you want in the appearance of a build-to-rule. They're hurting enough just as it is. We know build-to-rule. They have no problems leaving bits off in robot mode just to make it look a little better. And I will commend them, at least in this one, they actually tried to use all of the bits, and there are no leftover parts. So instead he has this monumental backpack, which I am shocked is not throwing his balance off in any way. Half of the jet is on here. Literally, here's the top piece, here are the wings, here's the cockpit. Pretty much nothing that makes him a jet made it onto his robot mode in any way. I mean, they're kind of a wing pack, but really? It couldn't get off the ground in vehicle mode. Do you think it's got any prayer in this one anyway? I mean, look at this. I mean, it's absolutely horrible in proportion. I mean, he looks like Popeye the Robot Man. I mean, these really huge fists and forearms. These massive legs and tiny, tiny little thighs and knees. And it's horrible all over the place. The proportions are horrendous. It just shocks me that they can release Transformers for so long and then still come up with something that's this weird in proportion. I mean, how do you make anything popular with these huge, huge forearms and lower legs, but really tiny, stick little limbs and making everyone look like blocky messes? How does anything like that ever become popular? Oh, so if he was a spiky-haired emo kid, this would actually be acceptable. Let's talk articulation just a little bit. Now, you've got shoulders, and these work a lot better than the shoulders on Thundercracker, I will tell you that right off. Upward motion and outward motion, so I will admit that's decent to have. Not that he could actually look at anything that he's aiming at. He's completely incapable of moving his head, which already looks weird enough with a big red piece making up the back of it. The only other piece of articulation is the waist, which is left over from his transformation. Yes, and believe it or not, these things have a level of transformation. It is wholly disappointing. You've only got 3 points of articulation, 5 if you count both of these, and it really doesn't get you anywhere. And it really doesn't get you anywhere because the balance on this thing, I mean, you would think the back kibble would help this, but he's got no feet. There's absolutely no front feet on this thing, so no matter what, he face falls, no matter what you do. And I'm exaggerating this a little bit, but you know, it does not take much of a nudge to knock him over. Now, let's talk thought in process. I understand this is kind of an improvised reversion of the original toy, but really? There wasn't any more thought into this. Honestly. I mean, look, Autobot symbol on his groin. I don't care how you design a toy. All I ask is that my Transformer does not have a smiley face on his crotch. That's just wrong. And really, I mean, it looks like he's wearing bike shorts. I mean, who thought this was a good idea? Here, check this out. How about I pluck this, and I'll put it in a more normal spot, say right here in the center of his chest. I'll pluck these off and rearrange it just a little bit. Since they want him to have a groin, I'll give him a groin that looks a little bit more normal. And take a look at that! How much better does that look? All I did was move 3 pieces. It took me 10 seconds. Really, that's all the thought it would have taken to make this thing look so much better, and they couldn't even do that. I mean, really, who looked at this? Who looked at the original form and went, "Yeah, that's good. Don't play with it anymore." I mean, look, this way, his chest is the largest part. His groin isn't sticking out to here, and it actually looks like he's wearing armor of some type. And yeah, it looks nothing like Skyblast, but the original didn't either. So, you know, why not play around with it like this? As it stands, the way you're supposed to do it by instruction, it's horrible. Did you know that originally this toy was going to retail probably about $5 or $6 since it was such a small set? But for Energon, they decided we want a $10 price point. So they crammed in a ton of extra parts that have nothing to do with Skyblast, and they called it a missile launcher set just so they could jack the price. And here is the final result. And wow, doesn't that look worth the extra $4? Look at that. It's a missile launcher. It has absolutely nothing to Skyblast and adds absolutely nothing to the toy. What a shock. A completely thoughtless idea in a build-to-rule line. Amazing. Function-wise, it's a full rotating turret, and these do fire with a turn of these little pieces, which is a lot harder when you don't have a Minicon to plug into them like you did for the Armada set. It's such a cheap piece. I mean, it's got nothing to do with Skyblast. It doesn't add anything to the toy. I mean, and it's so huge and bulky. There isn't anything else you could do with all these parts. I mean, and that's really my gripe here. You want to see my main gripe? Here, hang on a second. That is my problem. Look at all of these pieces devoted to a useless missile launcher that could have gone into making Skyblast such a better toy. I mean, make it look more accurate. Make it a bigger vehicle. Spread out the wings. I mean, look at this. Look, see? Translucent red pieces. Where would have those come in handy? Oh, I don't know. Making his actual blades. And I will admit, Skyblast is better than the other build-to-rules I've played with. However, that's kind of like saying the dog crapping in your backyard is better than it crapping in your front yard. Either way, it's still a big mess. Either way, you really don't want to play with it. But because this was a limited release figure and a test run of sorts, it came with a few things that don't normally come with Transformers. The first one is, well, that's kind of typical. It's your little catalog. But here's the Energon page. Here's Build-A-Rule Transformers page. See, they wanted you to buy all 6 in the first wave because if you got all 6 of them together, you could build the Energon cannon. Seems like a bunch of missile launchers glued together to me. How about you? Does that look like something you'd want to buy every one of these things for? Especially when you've got some that cost like $30 right off the shelf? No, not in the least. And why are Starscream and Scorponok's missiles on there? Are you telling me that there's some scenario where in Legoland they have to team up together to fight the little yellow people? I don't think so. But that's not the interesting one. The interesting one. A comment card. See, this was a test market release, so they wanted your feedback. God, I pity the poor intern that actually had to read these every day. So it's your typical survey thing, you know, little 5 little check marks, excellent to poor, whichever ones you actually wanted. So let's see, fun to play with, poor, appearance, poor, stays together, well, I threw it against the wall a few times, so it stayed together okay, that's good. Quality poor, value poor, age appropriateness. The box says 6 and up, so I'm going to check excellent because you'd have to be that young to have fun with this thing. Easy to follow instructions, poor. What do you like most about it? Well, watching it fly apart when it hit the wall, that was kind of fun. What, if anything, do you dislike about it? Well, unfortunately, there's only 2 lines on this thing, so I'm going to need a little bit more paper to fill this out. Let's see. No, not quite. I need a little more. Thank you to my 3,000 subscribers. Here's to however many more I get screwing around with these bad toys. I'm going to be busy for a while, so I am the Plastic Addict. I stay addicted, so you can stay away. Just stay away from this, really.
The best place for toys on the net? BigBadToyStore.com. Pre-orders for all the hottest toys. The biggest brands. Imports of your favorites. Vintage toys available again. Collectible replicas and statues. Pile of loot. Buy some now, some later, and get it shipped all at once. It's all there right now at BigBadToyStore.com.
I mean, if anyone knew about it, it's just, if everyone had a chance to buy this, I'm still not explaining this right. The entirety of the and pretty much everyone in the country who wanted one was going. I looked at all my usual sites. TFW didn't have it. Sabertron didn't have it.